Chapter 2, Luck and Risk. All right, let's talk about something we don't always like to admit, but deep down know is true. Luck and risk play a massive role in our lives, and I mean massive. Whether it's your career, your investments, or even your personal relationships, so much of what happens isn't entirely within your control. Here's the thing. We love stories where hard work leads directly to success because they're inspiring. But life doesn't always follow that script. Sometimes people hit it big despite making questionable decisions, while others who seem to do everything right still end up struggling. Why? Because luck and risk are the invisible forces shaping outcomes behind the scenes. Let me give you an example. Imagine two friends starting businesses at the same time. One opens a coffee shop in a trendy neighborhood just as remote work becomes popular during the pandemic. Suddenly, everyone wants takeout lattes and his business booms overnight. The other friend starts a gym right before lockdowns shut everything down. Same effort, same passion, but wildly different results. Was one smarter than the other? Not necessarily. It's just that luck and risk stepped in and tilted the scales. Now, here's a question for you. Can you think of a time when luck gave you a boost or maybe held you back? What did you learn from that experience? The problem with luck and risk is that they mess with our ability to judge cause and effect. When someone succeeds, we often assume it's because they were brilliant or worked harder than everyone else. And sure, those things might be true, but they're not the whole story. On the flip side, when someone fails, we tend to blame them for being lazy or careless, ignoring how much bad timing or random events might have played a part. Take Bill Gates, for instance. Most of us know him as one of the richest people in history, a tech genius who built Microsoft into an empire. But here's a detail you might not know. When Gates was in high school, he had access to a computer terminal at a time when almost no one else did. This wasn't because he was born into wealth, it was pure luck. That early exposure gave him a head start that shaped his entire career. Of course, Gates is incredibly talented, but without that lucky break, would he still be the Bill Gates we know today? Maybe, or maybe not. And then there's the opposite side of the coin, risk. Have you ever heard of Bernie Madoff? He ran one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history, bilking billions of dollars from investors. For years, he seemed untouchable, a Wall Street legend. But eventually, his scheme collapsed and he ended up in prison. Now, was Madoff greedy and unethical? Absolutely. But part of what kept his scam going for so long was blind luck. If the financial crisis hadn't exposed cracks in his operation, who knows how much longer he could have kept it running. So here's the key takeaway. You can't control luck or eliminate risk, but you can manage how you respond to them. For instance, if you get lucky and land a big bonus at work, don't blow it all on impulse buys. Save some of it, invest wisely, and use the rest to build a safety net for when risk inevitably shows up. And if something goes wrong, a missed promotion, a bad investment, don't beat yourself up. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I prepare better next time? Speaking of preparation, let's talk about survivorship bias. Ever heard that phrase? It's the idea that we focus too much on the winners and ignore the losers. Think about all the self-help books written by successful entrepreneurs. They'll tell you their secrets to success, but they won't mention the thousands of others who followed the exact same strategies and failed miserably. Those failures aren't glamorous, so we don't hear about them. But understanding them is crucial if you want to avoid overestimating your chances of winning. Here's another analogy. Picture a casino. Some gamblers walk away with huge payouts, while most leave empty-handed. If you only look at the winners, you might think gambling is a great way to get rich. But the reality is far less exciting. most people lose money in the long run. So instead of focusing on the outliers, pay attention to the averages. What are the odds, and what's the worst case scenario? Are you okay with taking that kind of risk? Before we wrap this up, here's a reflection question for you. How comfortable are you with uncertainty? Do you prefer playing it safe, or are you willing to take calculated risks to chase bigger rewards? There's no right answer. It's all about finding the balance that works for you. To close out Chapter 2, remember this. Success isn't just skill, and failure
Let's
isn't just
dive
about
into a
mistakes.
topic that hits close to home for so many of us, the idea of enough. It's something we all wrestle with at some point in our lives. How much money is enough? How much success? How much stuff? And here's the kicker: most of us never really feel like we've reached it. Think about it this way. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. You start out excited, energized, and focused on reaching the summit. But here's the catch. The higher you climb, the farther away the peak seems. That's because the goalpost keeps moving. What felt like enough when you started suddenly feels inadequate once you get closer. Now, let me share a story from the book. There was a man named Rajat Gupta. He grew up in India, worked hard, and eventually became one of the most successful executives in the world. By any measure, he had more than enough: wealth, status, respect. But instead of feeling satisfied, he got caught up in insider trading scandals, risking everything for even more. Why? Because he couldn't stop chasing the next level of success. Here's a question for you. Have you ever found yourself wanting something, a raise, a promotion, a new car, and then realizing after you got it that it didn't bring the happiness you expected? If so, you're not alone. The truth is, humans are wired to always want more. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it's why we often end up running faster without actually getting anywhere. Let's talk about another example. Picture someone who wins the lottery. At first, they're ecstatic, dreams of luxury vacations, fancy cars, and early retirement. But studies show that within a few years, most lottery winners return to their baseline level of happiness. Some even end up worse off because they mismanage their newfound wealth or lose touch with friends and family. So why does this happen? Well, part of it comes down to comparison. We don't measure our success in absolute terms. We measure it relative to others. If your neighbor buys a Tesla, suddenly your Honda doesn't feel as impressive anymore. And if everyone at work gets a bonus except you, even a decent paycheck can feel like a slap in the face. Here's an analogy. Think of happiness as a thermostat. No matter how high you turn it up, your mind adjusts and resets to its default setting. That's why chasing external validation, whether through money, possessions, or achievements, often leaves us feeling empty. Now, let's flip the script. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, try asking yourself, what would make me content right now? What's my definition of enough? For some, it might mean having enough savings to cover 6 months of expenses. For others, it could be spending more time with loved ones or pursuing a passion project. Take Warren Buffett, for instance. One of the richest people in the world, yet he still lives in the same modest house he bought decades ago. Why? Because he realized long ago that his definition of enough didn't require billions of dollars worth of mansions or yachts. He found joy in simplicity. But here's the tricky part. Knowing when to stop isn't easy. Society tells us that bigger is better, faster is cooler, and richer is smarter. Breaking free from that mindset takes courage and a willingness to redefine success on your own terms. Before we wrap this up, here's a reflection question for you. What does enough look like in your life? Is it financial independence, a certain lifestyle, or maybe just peace of mind? Take a moment to visualize it. It might help you resist the urge to keep chasing the next shiny object. To close out chapter 3, remember this: the pursuit of more can be thrilling, but it can also lead to ruin if left unchecked. True wealth isn't about how much you accumulate. It's about knowing when you've got enough to live the life you truly want. All right, good job.